Well, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to the broadcast. Thanks for joining. I'm going to put my screen up. I want to make sure you can hear me okay. So if you have your mobile phone handy, you can go to the web address listed on the screen and type in the code and then tell us where you're located and maybe what you love about RPR, what feature you really like. If you're new to RPR, you can tell us that as well, that you're here to watch and learn. But if you want to share with the other group members, we've got a large group on today. We'll make sure that you can hear me loud and clear and kind of see where everybody's located. We will get started in 2 minutes and got a great program for you today. So I'm excited to share with you some of my cool tips and tricks on how I use RPR. I am recording the session, so I'll explain at the conclusion where you can go and watch a recap of the presentation. So anyway, we'll see if you might want to participate. I'm getting a few folks that are telling me in the chat box you can do that. You can also go to your smartphone and go to menti.com and put the code in. Thank you. There's somebody there from Houston, Texas. Great. I see we've got some folks on from Debbie from Fort Collins, and Arthur's down in Cumming, Georgia. And Troy is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Ginger says hi. She's with Keller Williams in Maplewood, New Jersey. Hello, Ginger. I've never been to Maplewood. There's Orlando, Florida. Love the ability to see the values, and it helps with CMAs. Very true. Very true. Cool. May is in San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay Area. I love to go to San Francisco. Great. Central Massachusetts, and like the property estimates. Great. I spoke in your area once, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time there, and the folks were so nice. Charlotte, North Carolina. There is an abundance of data, isn't there? Over 350 pieces of data are in RPR. And I see Bethlehem, Pennsylvania with Coldwell Banker. Thank you. Leawood, Kansas. Is that, I think Leawood, there is a big real estate marketing company in Leawood, Kansas. Omaha, Nebraska. Great. Appreciate you coming. There's Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Use it for both commercial and residential. Northport, Florida. Great. This is a brand new little system. I'm doing some speaking and I'm trying to do more interactivity with my audiences. And yesterday it just dawned on me, do you know I could use that in my webinars too? So very cool. All right. Couple of folks from Northport, Florida. Orlando, Florida. I was just watching a really cool webinar this morning with a lady from Orlando, Florida, who was talking about Instagram. She was rocking it with Instagram. All right. Well, let's get started. It is 1:01, so I'm going to jump over here to RPR and we will get started. Thanks for joining. Again, I have I am recording this session, and it looks like everybody can hear me okay, so I'm not seeing any problems. I am showing my screen, and believe it or not, before we get started, I must confess a mistake I made yesterday. I'm going to look to see if the other person is on there, but I thought the webinar was yesterday, and I log in. I'm like ready to go. And I log in and there's 600 something people signed up for the webinar. And I see one person on and I thought, this is odd. I mean, where's everybody at? And I looked over at the calendar and the GoToWebinar and it said it did not start until tomorrow. And I was thinking, oh no. But believe it or not, there was somebody else who thought it was yesterday. So we had a nice conversation. I explained to them that I had made a mistake, goofed up, and so anyway, it's today and we're ready to get rolling. Well, my name is John Mayfield. I go by the business tech guy. I've been in real estate for 38 years, actually since 1978 at the age of 18. I hope I don't sound that old, but I always wanted to be in broadcasting and communications, and my mom said, "Hey, they changed." She had a real estate office, and she said they changed the age. You only have to be 18 to get your license in Missouri. And I thought, well, that might be a good gig while I'm going to college. And so, and it really was a great gig. I mean, you could kind of set your own hours, and if you had a um, class, you just told people you had another appointment, and everybody worked with you. But I got my license in 1978. I took over my mom's office. I very quickly will just tell you that I grew the office to 3 offices, a number of agents. And in 2006, I just got kind of burned out, and I sold my company to go to work for a bank. I thought the grass was greener on the other side of the hill. Well, lo and behold, the economy started tanking. The bank I went to work for was on the um, watch list. We had a late spring freeze, lost our entire blueberry crop. My wife and I owned a blueberry farm. I was like Chevy Chase in Christmas Vacation. If you ever see him on that silver saucer when he says, "Hey, kids, don't do this at home." That's what my life looked like financially. But anyway, I survived. I had a non-compete clause, and it was just a comedy of goofy stuff that happened. And, we just sold our stuff and we started over at 46 or 47 years old. And you know what? You can always replace stuff. I had my health and I had my family, and I had my real estate license, although real estate wasn't very good at that time. So I had to relocate to St. Louis and sold real estate there. And then when my non compete clause was up, I reopened my office, and I still continue to sell real estate here in the Farmington, Missouri area. And I just kind of work on my own as a virtual real estate broker because I travel and teach and do a lot of training all over the world. And so I'm living the dream right now, but I want you to know all of that because I'm in the trenches and I'm using RPR every day with my business. And I love RPR. I think it's a great product. And quite frankly, that's why I teach this class. I'm so sold on it, and I've seen so many transactions develop from this tool in my own business that I want to share with you what some of the really cool things that I'm doing with it. So it's a great product, and I'm going to show you today 10 ways you can earn more business and beat your competition. And I'm going to show you some really cool things that I like to do with RPR as well that maybe not are not in the general program, but I'll show you some cool things that I've been doing with it. And again, I am recording it. If you want to rewatch it, you can. So I'm in the trenches like you and I, like the rest of you, and I'm working with buyers and sellers every day. And I use RPR on a daily basis. So first of all, RPR, most of you already know this. This is not the basic course, but just very quickly, it is a national database. And somebody said, they like the fact that it had over 350, or it has a lot of information inside of it, and it does. It has a lot of properties inside there. One of the really cool things about 166 million US properties is the fact that I can go and find a property even if the property has never been in the MLS. Now, again, I've been in the same board for 38 years. And I've seen our MLS change and go. And I had a whole catalog of every MLS book we ever had when we finally went to the computer. And, if there's a property that's been listed or hasn't been listed, I'm in a small area, I know about it. And recently I had a property that some friends of mine wanted me to list their parents' home who had passed away. And I went to RPR and I just pulled that property up, all the information. And RPR even gave me a suggested list price. So, when we say that it's a parcel centric database of over 166 million properties, it has properties that have never been in the MLS. And it's exclusively for use with you and I as realtors. Now, I love the bullet point where it says it's a constantly evolving, cutting edge application because it really is. We added some things just this week with our recent update that are mind-boggling. We're getting ready to add additional tools that I unfortunately cannot talk about that are just so cool that you will really, RPR is just going to be your go-to app. If it hasn't been, it should be. And the really neat thing is there's no additional charge to you and I. I actually hate that bullet point because there is a charge. We pay for it with our dues dollars. So, You're paying for it. You may as well use it. The public has no access to this, no consumer access. And so a lot of really cool things there. What you need to know is that RPR is not an MLS, okay? It's not an MLS. It's no consumer facing business model where the consumer can go and look up information. And RPR is not syndicating. It's not taking any of this data and sending it out to anywhere else. It's just available to members of the National Association of Realtors. Now, we're going to look at today, and one of the things you need to understand is what we call an automated valuation model and a realtor's valuation model. Now, you are already familiar with an automated valuation model. It's just a computer generating a price, and I could say a word that begins with a Z and kind of sounds, it's well, I won't go. You all already know what that estimate is, don't you? That starts with a Z. Not that I'm prohibited from saying it, but we hear that a lot. I was showing a property about 2 years ago, and this is when I really first got turned on to RPR. It was 2 or 3 years ago, and I started using it a lot and learning about it. And so I had these people that wanted to look at this house. They called me up. They said, we want to look at this property you have listed on such and such address. And do you know how sometimes you get a phone call, somebody calls you up and they say, we want to go look at this, make an appointment to look at this house. And you just have a feeling when you talk to them on the phone, this is going to be a good deal. I mean, I think these people might buy this house. That's the feeling I had. And the really neat thing about this was if I sold that house, it was going to cause a domino effect for about 3 or 4 other transactions I had, because these people in that home the folks wanted to look at, they had a contingent contract. So it was all these contingencies lined up, and it was a lot of money, and I really needed to sell their home. So I was really excited when they said that they wanted to look at this house. And so I set the appointment up. I meet them at the house, get out of the car, and I say, hi, I'm John Mayfield. And he grabs his jeans by his belt and tugs these jeans up and has this really mean look on his face. I'm just introducing myself as John Mayfield, and he goes, how come this house is only worth X number of dollars on such and such website? And I said, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that question. The website you're referring to is the value you saw is what is called an automated valuation model, just what we're looking there at the top bullet point. And I explained to them there's a really key word right here. And if I was in class and I was on the chalkboard, I would circle this word right here. And I explained to him that the value that he saw online at that website only has access to publicly available information. And I told him in Missouri, we're what's called a non-disclosure state, so they really don't have access to much information. I mean, they have some access to some active listings and some listings that they might have on their website, but basically they don't have a lot of information. And furthermore, I explained to these folks that this AVM is really just a computer. The computer doesn't know if the people have 6 cats and 7 dogs inside the house. The computer doesn't know if the next door neighbor's house is lined up with old dilapidated cars and junk. And, you've been in those types of situations. The computer just doesn't know any of that information. It just knows some specifics about the property, and it plugs it into what we call an algorithm, a mathematical formula, and it spits out a number. And then, so I proceeded to explain to this couple that my calculation or value on the property was based through what is called an RVM, which is a realtor's valuation model. And I explained to them that we actually get to use the same information that the website uses that he looked at, but we get to use what? we get to use the MLS data. And so therefore, our product or our valuation is going to be much more accurate. Plus, as I explained to this couple, I get to use my experience and my knowledge of the marketplace to really hone in and fine tune to give the most accurate price opinion for that property versus any type of computer that could be out there. And those folks understood what I told them. They purchased that home. And by the way, there was about a $40,000 gap between what they saw online and what I had the house listed for. And they purchased that home. We closed and I got all of those transactions to go through. Now, I tell you that story because I want you to understand what the differences are between the AVM, our competitors, and the value that we generate in RPR, which is called a realtor's valuation model or an RVM. Now, I want to tell you something. I have used this RVM, and again, now I can't just say, well, the computer says it's worth or $200,000 that's what the property's worth. We still have some work to do, you and I, as professionals. We have to look up some comps. We have to inspect the property. We have to, interject our experience of those comps that we're choosing and their location and what the condition might be. We might even have to pick up the phone and call some of these folks. But we still have some work to do regarding the pricing of that property. But when we come up with a refined value, with using the RVM, we can get price reductions. We can use it in negotiating with other our competitors when we're trying to negotiate a contract, and so much more. It has just been a huge benefit to me. So understand what the difference between an AVM and an RVM, and remember, those are just computers. And so we're going to kind of go through and look at these 10 areas today, how we can uncover the seller's motivation. We're going to look at value and home improvements. I'm going to walk you through the comparative market analysis. And by the way, I'm going to show you some really cool things when we get down to market activity and neighborhood reports. But something really cool I found out in the comparative market analysis, I'll show you as well, that has helped me in focusing where I want to do my business in 2017. And I was showing this to my daughter who's helping me. In fact, we're going out this afternoon and, we've been farming an area, knocking on doors. So I still get out and do those kinds of things as well. But I'll show you some really cool things there as well. So we got lots to take a look at. And the first one is using RPR to determine the seller's motivation. So I'm going to go back and forth from the PowerPoint, and I'm also going to go into RPR. So I just want to jump out to RPR very quickly. You can see the home screen here. And, remember that right through here is where we're going to do most of our work, okay? I do want to point out that if you're searching for properties, so if someone called you up and they wanted you to list their house and it's not for sale, this is the tab you want to have selected. Because I like to, and this is just my analogy or my illustration, is it's kind of like all properties is connected to the county courthouse, okay? And it's pulling all of the records into RPR from here. If this was a property that someone called you up and said, hey, our house is currently listed with XYZ Realty, we're very upset with the company, we want to make a change, our listing expires on Friday, can you come out and talk to us? Now remember, if they initiated the conversation, at least in Missouri, and I can then begin discussions with that person or taking the listing to go into effect the day it expires. But they have to initiate that conversation. Well, if I wanted to pull that property up, I can just go right here to the for sale section. And I like to tell people that that's kind of like it's tied into your MLS. Now, you'll notice we've added for lease. So if you have for leases in your area, you can search for those. We're going to search for neighborhoods. You can go and look at school information, and you can look at some really interesting marketing activity. And down here, an area that I have to use a lot as a rural real estate broker in a smaller community is the advance tab. Now, the reason I have to use the advance tab is because sometimes I'm looking up a property and it might be a rural route or an HCR box something, and I put that address in, but I can come right down here and put the owner's name in, and that will allow me to then search for the owner in that county or that with that address, and normally I can find the property that way. And don't forget that you also have the ability, and I think that might be under the for sale tab. Let's take a look here. Yes, it is. If you're looking under properties that are for sale, now remember I said for sale similar to the MLS. Right down here you have the keyword search. So the girl today that was doing the webinar on Instagram that I watched did a great job on Instagram. I got a lot of great cool ideas from Instagram watching her webinar. She said, a lot of her people want swimming pools. Well, if you were searching, you can type by the word pool and include that with the with the address. So if I'm searching Prescott, Arizona, and I want to search within a price range of 300 and 350, but they want a pool, swimming pool, I can then type in that word pool right there, and I will search for that. And now I'm going to pull up all of the properties in Prescott, Arizona that are between that price range that have a swimming pool. Now, I always tell people this is like Geraldo Rivera when he opened up the vault. With technology, we have the same thing. We could go to a commercial break, and when we come back and open the vault, there could be nothing inside. But we had some things there, 69 properties. Well, now I can look down through here, and I want to just kind of enlarge my screen a little bit because I want us to look at something here. Here's what's interesting. Now, let's just say we're a buyer's agent. We're going to kind of dig into this a little bit. Here's this property here that I'm working with some buyers, but look at the price. The list price is $350. The RVM, the realtor's valuation model, is $333. As a buyer's agent, I'm looking at that and thinking, now I haven't shown this to my folks, and I don't know what the market's like in Prescott, Arizona. It could be a very hot market right now. But, my first initial thoughts is this property might be overpriced. Well, there's still a lot of work I have to do. I have to choose my own comps because remember, this is just a computerized value for that property. But I just wanted you to see how neat that is that you can kind of go through and look at some of these properties in that respect. Now, I'm going to just press on this one. Let's just use this. And I will bring this back a little bit. So a couple of interesting things to note here. This has a 5-star rating right here. And the first thing we want to do is kind of determine the seller's motivation. And I don't know if I can do that on this particular property, but let's take a look. So you'll notice right up here where my mouse is, right under my logo, we have summary, history, charts, refined value. We can go in and do a comp analysis, and we can take a look at the neighborhood. In this first example, I'm really wanting to try to figure out the seller's motivation here. So if I selected the history tab, and keep in mind I'm a buyer's agent, right? So I need to do some work for my buyer. This first little chart right here is going to kind of give us a little bit of information here, the sales financing activity. Notice, and I know it might be difficult to see on your screen, so I'll just read the key areas across here. Of course, the home icon is the property right here. Now, if you see a gold dot, it's giving me listing activity. Well, I can put my mouse over one of these right here, and notice it has a little toolbar that pops up that gives me, so it's taking backup offers at 355, 350, They were taking backup offers back on 11/1, so they've had a deal fall through, haven't they? Now I can go back here, and they put it on the market for 365 back in July. Now let's drop down here where their dollar sign is, and I can see that the month before they put it up for sale, they took a $180,000 loan out right there. See that? And back here, which this is going to be back in 2012 or 13, I can see that they took a loan out for 196.8. So I don't know if this is somebody who has bought this home and they are flipping it, but let's go down and we can find out a little bit more. So I'm going to come down here to prior sales transactions, and I can look at public transactions, and there was a quit claim deed on June the 7th, transfer tax on document John Scott and Penny. So there have been some things going on here. It looks like he was an unmarried man, and maybe, I don't know, I'm going to have to dig a little further, but I can go back and look at some deed transfers here. And it looks like in 2007, there was a $315,000 recorded. Now, this is what's cool. And I want to tell you what, I use this. We have Maris, which is part of the Mid-America Regional MLS. It's a great MLS. It's out of St. Louis. And I'm also a member of the Miami Board of Realtors because I have a license in Florida, and I do work back and forth. And in both Florida and Miami and St. Louis, we use Matrix. Most of you might be familiar with Matrix. It's a very big CoreLogic. It's a very big MLS. And I'm not in any way saying anything derogatory about CoreLogic or Maris, but if I need to go and look at a prior sales transaction, it's a pain. I mean, it's not a pleasant experience unless someone knows a different way than I know. I can go into RPR, type the property address in that I'm wanting, go right to the property, go to the history tab, first tab over, second tab, drop down below here, select listing records, and now all of the sales transactions from our MLS show up right here. I'm telling you what, I can't get it that fast in Maris, in my own MLS. So I'm just wanting you to know that's a shortcut for me in times, I need to save all the time I can. So you just jump right down here to prior sales transactions. It's going to default to public records. In this case, we see some public records, but I want to see what went on in the MLS. And right here, I can see that they paid $315,000 for this. Someone did back in 2007. And I can see the office, the agents that were involved, and more information. So you can kind of get an idea on the seller's motivation by looking at a couple little things here: sales financing, prior sales transactions. I can even come down here and look at the mortgage records. So it just looks like, I'm just thinking perhaps, and who knows, they could have taken a loan out the month before they put it up for sale to remodel the house and do some updates to put it, to maximize and get the most out of it. But I can see some loans here. Yesterday, actually, I have this property pulled up, and again, I'm on summary. I'm going to jump over to history. This is a property in Prescott that I had pulled up. I just wanted you to see some activity. Look on this property. I thought this was interesting. They took a loan out for $329,000 in November 1st, 2015, and they took a future advance clause out. So they basically took their equity back out, $75,000, July of 2016. Now, I'm able to go into this as a buyer's agent with a lot more knowledge when I can look at their list price and see what kind of financing they might have or what's going on there. So, I mean, just some interesting things that you can look at in that respect. And you can go down and look at the mortgage record information as well. So that's our first item we wanted to look at, was using RPR to determine the seller's motivation right there. some interesting things you can do. So let's go to number 2, and this time we're going to put on a listing agent's hat, okay? And we're going to look at the value of the home improvements. And I love this. I love this tool, and you need to be using it point blank, okay? I'm just telling you that right now. I already confessed to you my woes and troubles, didn't I? I sold my office. I went to work for a bank. The dogs left. They actually did. Our dogs kept. We had these 2 dogs on the farm, and they kept going. They kept getting out of the electric fence we had up when we'd have a thunderstorm, and they would go over to our farm, another neighbor's farm, because they like to feed them leftover scraps from the table. And after about the 4th trip, when I drove over there and I saw those 2 dogs laying in the front yard after they had had a big healthy meal of leftovers, I said, you know what, dogs, you can just stay right there, because I couldn't really afford to feed them at that point anyway. So I mentioned my wife and I literally sold most of our stuff. We really did. And you know, I I had a lot of times in my life when I thought, man, I'm a real loser. I've come so far. I had 17 rental properties and I sold most of them just to try to keep everybody paid and try to keep our head above water. I didn't want to file bankruptcy and did not file bankruptcy, and I paid everybody back what I owed them. But, through all of that turmoil, we couldn't get a loan to save our life. I mean, really, nobody would touch us. And here I paid back all the local banks, but in a small community, there's just something about, if you have some tough luck, it's like they don't want to bother you. And I'm telling you that story to say my wife and I did have a rental house that was in a great neighborhood. It was at one of our best rental properties. We were the worst kid on the block. And when we decided to move back and reopen the office, it was a tough process of fixing the house up because we didn't have the money to do it, and we had to pay cash for everything because nobody would give us a loan. And I mean, we had to. The house itself was tough to live in, but we did, and we cleaned it up. And slowly over the several years, we put new windows in. We redid our kitchen. We updated the floors, put new doors. And I remember one day I was showing somebody through our house, and I was going through all these things we had done to our house. And I said, yeah, we redid the kitchen and we put this. And I said, and we put all new interior doors up in the house. And, I noticed this person kind of looking at me like they could really care less. And the thought went through my head at that time, John Mayfield, how many times have you blown off a seller who was so proud of all the stuff they've done? And you just like, okay, new windows, big deal. Not that I thought that, but I didn't really take that into consideration or care. And so here's what's really cool. Today, you have the ability to literally go in and incorporate or have this conversation. And I want to tell you something. Since I've started doing this on my listing appointments, I'm seeing a whole different viewpoint from these consumers, clients, and soon to be clients, where their eyes light up and they really get excited because I'm taking into consideration, I'm asking them what they've done. So all you have to do is move over to the refined value. So now we have our seller's hat on. We're looking at this house. They've got it listed with these folks at $350. We see $333 in the RVM. We're going out Friday, and I want to go into refined value. And by the way, I do this at their kitchen table. I have a hotspot on my phone. I use an iPad Pro, the bigger screen, the 12.9 inch, I believe it is. And I have my Apple Pencil, and I'm writing on as you can see, I like to be visual, but I'm doing this with them. So I log into RPR with my iPad Pro, and I'm actually not using the app on the iPad. I like to use the desktop version because I've got a lot of desk space on my iPad Pro. But I come right down here, and you'll notice we have this refine the value based on any home improvement. So I'm asking them questions like, can you tell me some additions that you've done? And I had these folks the other day It's not been too long ago, and they actually had done some bathroom remodeling. I said, in fact, I noticed you redid the bathroom. And she said, oh, yeah, yeah. And she said, we did that in July, and that was in 2016. It wasn't too long ago, and they spent $3,500. It was a smaller home. And when I add that value, it gives them $2,228 in value. So now it's actually calculating that and putting that into the price. And so some of you are saying, well, John, how did it do that? Or what, what's the process of that? Years ago, I remember a guy that worked with me. His name was Paul Adams. We called him Fiddle. He was a great salesman. Let me tell you what, he could sell a lot of real estate. He was my top agent. But Fiddle and I used an old Marshall and Swift book, and we would go through the book and look up. And if it had this, we'd add 60 cents per square foot, multiply it. And after 30 minutes, we would come up with all these values. But what I want you to really take away from this is the fact that this is a great tool for you to show consumers you really want to know what have they done to their home in the last couple of years, and give them credit for that or include that in your price. Now, if I'm doing that and taking that time and listening and showing them that I care, and my competitors are doing what the old John Mayfield used to do, I'm telling you what, you're going to beat the competition every time. Because Dale Carnegie said, and I believe this, you can win more friends in 2 months by showing them you are interested in them than you can in 2 years by trying to get them interested in you. You know what? People could really care less, I think, about all your designations and awards and all the other junk you're trying to shove down their throat. They really want to know, do you care about my home and what I've done to it? And are you taking the time and consideration to give me the right price? I really believe that. And so here's a tool we have now where you can do that. And so I would just go through and ask them questions. If there's something that they have, like if they said, last July it was so hot that we put a winterized doghouse in. It cost us $10,000. Well, you can put an air conditioned doghouse. So air conditioned doghouse. And you can add that $10,000. It's just going to add $10,000 because it really doesn't know, so it's just actually added 9,500. So I guess for some reason it took 500 off. And you could say, I didn't ever like that dog. He tried to bite me when I came in. I'm not going to give him credit. So you can always remove them. You can always restore everything to the original value and refine the value based on home improvements. Now, it's a really cool feature we just added a few months ago was the ability that if they need to put carpeting in, it needs carpet and it's going to cost $15,000, you can add that and it's actually going to subtract $15,000 because they need to add this carpet or they're going to have an expense. So again, you can always restore to the original and you can add these home improvements, but that's a great way for you to show to your consumer, hey, I care about you, I care about your property, and I want to hone in on the right price, make sure that we're taking everything into consideration. Now, we're going to go into the comp analysis, which is our third tip we want to look at. So I'm going to go right back out here, and we're on this same property. By the way, you have some really cool slider bars down here that you can adjust and go into, but we're going to go over to comp analysis, which is the next tab over. It's the fifth tab over. So we go summary, history charts, refined value, which is what we were just on. Now we're on comp analysis. So we're going to go in and I'm just going to confirm the facts here. It's 5 steps and I'm going to go confirm the facts and it's going to bring me over here to where I can begin to go through the 5 different steps here. So our first order of business is to find some comps. So I'm going to select find comps And RPR is going to bring a map up, and I'm going to kind of zoom out a little bit on my computer so you can see. I don't want to zoom out too far, but I just want you to see some things going on. And I'll zoom back in just a minute. Leave everything alone here, okay? Because the computer, the system is designed to really use the mind of an appraiser, I guess is my analogy, to look for comps for this property you're doing a CMA on. Because we don't want to pull comps that later the appraiser might say, I can't use that comp. So we're really trying to put our appraiser's hat on here. And all of these things are preset. Now we can go and change those, but I would leave it alone the first go round. So I'm going to come down here to the bottom and I'm going to select search. And it's going to go out and it's going to look for the predetermined fields based on our subject property, the property under appraisal, the one we're doing the CMA on. It knows what data it has from the courthouse and the MLS, and it knows the location. So it's going out and it's looking, and it's found 22 sold properties. So I'm going to zoom back in here, and I just want to go back up here and show you a couple of things. If I wanted to modify the search, and I'm just pointing this out because in some areas, if you get out in the country, or if you have a tough time finding comps, you can search by keywords if you want to just try to find homes that had a pool. I would probably be real specific, but because somebody might have swimming, I guess pool we would be safe because it's searching inside the words, but I don't want you to miss some comps by putting in keywords. So I would just search for what you're looking for. But I just wanted to show you, you can go back up to 18 months if you're in an area where you're not pulling a lot of comps, and you can change all of these variables right here. And you can also, we just added this feature this week called under contract, because some areas actually don't report. There are some MLSs that do not report a listing pending if it goes under contract. And so now we've fixed that to where you can auto adjust that if your board is one of those. And you can also zoom out. So if you want to resubmit the search, you can do that. But let's just go down and let's pick some comps here. Now, again, this is where at the very beginning of the webinar, I said it's a computerized price, but I told those folks I met at that property, but I get to use my experience and my knowledge of the marketplace. So this is where I'm going to use my knowledge to say, there have been some places that it's pulled some comps for me, and I'm thinking, I can't pull that one because it's across the street in a different school district, even though it's within a mile. It's in a totally different location and there's not as much demand, so I'm not going to pull that one. So here's where I'm using my experience and my knowledge. And by the way, if it has a star, then I know that was used in RPR. So now I can come down here to the bottom. I can go through, I could pick some actives, I could pick a pending, and I can come down here, update the valuation and close. And so now I'm able to go through and I'm able to pull my comps. So the next step would be to adjust the comps right here. And I'm going to select adjust the comps. I can make the photos bigger. And here's a really a new feature we just added too. It auto calculates how close the property is to the subject. So I can see how far away the property is. And I could say, man, this house right here is almost identical. So I can select, pardon me, I'm going to go right up here. It's in the third position. I can go and I can put that in the first position and it moves it over, because when I'm on my iPad with my pencil and I'm going through the CMA, I may want to circle some of these. And this house here I might be familiar with, and I could say, that house is not near as nice as the house that's under consideration. This one is not near as nice. So I can move these bars around based on the condition of the comparable toward the subject property, and I can type notes in. Now, what's great about this is I can put, I'm a creative speller. If I do a typo, and I can go on and on with words there. Now, when I'm on my iPad and I'm going through the report, I can come down here and I can circle that. In fact, with my iPad, I can take my fingers and, do that where I can zoom in, and through zooming in, and I can then circle that with my pen. So the CMA is a great tool. It gives us some really cool opportunities. I want to go back and show you something that I found by accident. Let's see. I want to come back over here, and I'm going to edit the comps here, right here. Very quickly, I went into my area and I selected single family, and I wanted to look at pending, under contract, and sold. And I unchecked bedrooms, and I unchecked baths, and I unchecked living area. And I went back the last 12 months. Actually, I think we looked at the last 18 months. And I zoomed out to where my whole community was chosen. And then I did a new search. And what my daughter and I found out was we immediately, even though I kind of knew that in my head, we immediately spotted 2 subdivisions that had a lot of activity going on. And it told us that this is where we need to be doing our farm area. So, if I was looking here, it looks like, you can kind of see that if I wanted to farm an area, looks like there's some good activity going on right in this area. And again, I just did that by unchecking everything and searching solds only, and going out of my city, where my market area was, and running the search. And then it gave me this visual. And in my market area, man, you could see it. There was this John David subdivision, a lot of activity. And then Hunter's Ridge, a lot of activity. And then this west side of town, there wasn't hardly anything going on. So it's just a little tip I wanted to show you that you could do there as well. So that's number 3. Now, valuation workbook, that is in what we were just doing. You can do that through the, and I missed that specific part. I don't use the valuation workbook a lot. And unless you're really doing maybe a lot of short sales or BPOs, I don't think you're going to actually be using the valuation workbook, but it's a pretty cool feature, and it is available. I just haven't found the need for me to use it in my business based on all the other tools that I find in RPR. Now, we can search for distressed properties, and I want to show you that really quick. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to go back to the home screen right up here at the top. And this time, there's a couple of ways you can search for foreclosures. I can go over here to market activity, which is the furthest one over. And notice everything is shown here. I'm going to select this box that says show all. Now I'm going to select the box again to uncheck everything. And now I want to check new distressed. And here I can actually go back the last week. And let's just type in Prescott. And by the way, it auto calculates for zip code, street address, county, city. And we're actually going to go out and look for pre-foreclosures, and so there's nothing available there. That's okay. I told you I was like Geraldo Rivera. So I'm going to go to the home screen, and this time I'm going to type in That's a good sign. I would much rather see no pre-foreclosures. Let's go back 1 month and let's search this area again. And there may not be anything because I have not run a search on Prescott, Arizona. Yeah, there's 6. So in the last week, there were none. So we have 6. And here I can find out information about this. If I wanted to go into one of these properties, I could drop all the way down and I can look at all the distressed information down here at the bottom, the tax records, the deeds, all of that information. I can go to history and I can scroll down here. And here's all of the distressed information. Now, you might find this where if a property's not listed yet, because these are pre-foreclosures, you might be able to go in and say, okay, I know who who's handling this, the trustee, and I've even got their phone number. I could give them a call. Now, if it's listed with someone, you would definitely want to go through the other agency, but there are times that you could maybe get in and help the trustee out, or a bank if it's from out of the area. So what I would recommend you do is you type in your city name here and you go back the last week. Uncheck, show all the items. Remember, I'm on market activity, and then unshow everything, and then just check new distress. That's all you want. You can come out here to advance, and you can come down and you can look at Fannie Mae. They used to have I guess they're including all those right there now. Okay, well that's better actually. So I'm into new distressed, and I would save this report. So I would run it, and then I would come up here and save the report right up here on the right-hand side. Because what you can do then is set a recurring appointment on Monday in your smartphone, 11 a.m. or 3 o'clock, check foreclosures. I can come down here. Here's one I did in Las Vegas. I already saved it for a webinar I did. And I can, my smartphone goes off, check pre-foreclosures. I can come out here and I can see if there's anything new in the last 7 days, because I'm just checking the last 7 days in my market area. Now, it could be one of two things. Perhaps it's this property's not listed yet, so you can maybe get a listing, or if it is listed and you have a buyer, you might be able to call up your investor and provide some properties to them. So we got 29 properties in Las Vegas in the last 7 days that just recently went into pre-foreclosure. And that's sad. I hate that. I mean, I've been there where when you don't know which way to turn, and I feel for those folks. But the feature's there for you to look at. And I did have a lady one time who said, well, I don't like that. That's not right. Why is that in there in a live class? And I said, well, it is public information. And all we're doing as RPR is taking the public information that you would have to drive down to the courthouse and look up manually and funneling it right into one database. So that's where, all of these properties that are available for you. So if you go into for sale and advanced, right here, you can search for only, if I wanted to just search for Fannie Mae properties that were on the market, I could search those. Sometimes I have people call me up and I know it's a Fannie Mae home, and rather than go to Fannie Mae's website or HomePath's website, I can just come here and do a quick search and find out all the properties in my community. That's under for sale. So you have market activity, you have for sale, and think about checking those out. I actually have a story, and I don't have time to tell it, where I helped a guy that was in that situation, and I was able to help him avoid foreclosure and work with the bank. So you can do business through that little tool. Number 6 on mapping tools, really cool things. And I'm going to go back to the home screen here, which I'm on the home screen, but we'll put this up. Notice my recent properties, recent searches, recent reports are all there. I'm going to go back to this boardwalk property that we were looking at in Prescott, Arizona. And this time I'm going to jump over here to the bigger map right here. So I'm going to select the bigger map. And I just want to draw your attention. Well, I'm going to draw a map, but you can actually do some really cool things. You can do a drive time, and I can do walking. So if you're in a community where people love to walk, or you're near a college campus and folks say, we want our child to be within a 15-minute walking distance of the campus, or a 10-minute walking distance, I can go and look for properties within a 10-minute walk of that. If I put my pin on the campus where they will be going, I can also um, um, I have some folks that a gentleman that's with the fire department. If the firehouse is right here and he has to be within 5 miles of the firehouse, I can look for properties within 5 miles of the firehouse. So got some really cool drive time. And by the way, the drive time is day of the week, walking, driving, time of day, distance. I can search. I can even draw, a map. So if I want to draw a map around that area. So let's just say this is where I want to do my farm area. After I went and did some research on where I should be looking for properties, and this is my farm area, I can save this. I could search the area, but I'm going to put farm area and select OK. And now it's going to go out. I can search the area, but here's what I like to do. I told you I wanted to show you some cool things. I know we're up against a quick time break, but we got a few minutes. Come out here to the home screen and remember this menu over here where we had our saved CMA? There's my farm area in Scottsdale, Arizona. There's some other ones I've drawn. Oh, here's my custom area. That's what I want. That's the area we just did, farm area. And now it's going to pull up all the activity in the farm area. I'm going to go to report or create a report, either one. So I'm going to create a report. As my computer's ready for a coffee break, it's slowing down on me. Here's market activity. I'm going to select more details. I want the past month. I do not want expireds, and I do not want open houses. But I want the market activity going on because I'm going to send this to my market area, farm area, and I don't want them finding out about expireds or open houses. I want them to call me. So now I'm going to run the report. And I'm going to get this in a digital format. And so I can go on and work in RPR. This box will auto close. I don't have to do anything. It'll just go away in a second. Now, while that's in the oven, cooking, baking, I'm going to add a new tab here. So let's go over here and let's go to my website. We're just cranking it up a notch, as Imro would say. And look under market reports. Now I'm going to show you a neighborhood report, which is one of our 10 things that I wanted to show you. So here's a neighborhood report. And if you select this neighborhood report, you can sign up for it. You actually get this in a digital format. It's an e-magazine that I have. And by the way, my folks who come here or myself, I can share this on Facebook, Twitter, any of those available sites that I want to share it on, and drive them to my website. So what I'm going to do is create a website page called Mayfield RE / the name of the farm, Whispering Pines, or Holiday Park. I'm going to send postcards to everybody in that farm area, and they can go to my website, and this is what they'll land on, the page right here. Actually, I'm going to encourage them to just sign up so I can send it to them by email. Now, again, this is a neighborhood report, but you can also do that for the report, for this report. So when I generate this report, you'll get to see what it looks like. But let's face it, who doesn't want to know what's going on in their neighborhood for other properties that have sold? And it allows you to become the expert, that person that they think of when they think of real estate. And of course, this would have the title of the subdivision, and it would have your picture and contact information, and it's got charts and graphs, and they're going to think that you are a computer mastery because they will look at all this information and say, wow, there's some really cool stuff. And you could post that. I used to think once a month, but I think even really once a quarter would be great. But if you could do it monthly, that uh, would be a great way for you to communicate in your farm area. So that is what the report looks like. You can put that in a Dropbox. You can tie it into um, your website. And by the way, I always tell every group this, and I sincerely mean it with all my heart. If there's something you've seen me do today, you are more than welcome to email me or call me. I love to help and encourage and show other people how to to grow your business. So I've had several people call me and say, John, I want to do that. But I don't know how to do it. I'll be more than happy to help you. I have recorded the session. I've got some other sessions that I do these kinds of things. So I'm here to help you, and don't be afraid to ask in that respect. Okay. So let's go down the list here. So we looked at mapping tools. We looked at market activity reports, and I think I showed you some cooler things you can do there with the farm reports. And we looked at the neighborhood report that I showed you. I just want to show you. There's really only two more things we have to look at: trade area reports. There's some really good reports here, and one of the areas was the neighborhood report. And I'm going to go back to the home screen. And I'm going to go back to this property. By the way, you'll love the mobile app because I can jump. It remembers what properties that I've looked at. So if I'm out in the car and I have my mobile app, I can pull up properties or vice versa. But here's this property. Now, if we come down here on the right-hand side, I can do a lot of various things. But one of the things I can do is compare the neighborhood. And so when I pull up this neighborhood report, it gives me tons of information here. So like this right here, I'm going to make this a little smaller. I use a little program called Snagit. I don't know if you've heard of Snagit, but I can use Snagit and I can capture an image or I can capture video. In this case, I'm going to do an image. And so now I'm going to just come up here and I'm going to capture this little piece of information right here. Now, by the way, I can actually use this right over here and I can erase this stuff, put a white background in here, but I'm just, for time's sake, I'm going to show you how to do it. I've now created a graphic that I can go up and share via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or if I wanted to use Snagit and do an actual video recording, I could go down through and I could talk about what's going on in our market and do a little 2-minute video or, quicker or whatever. So there's really these neighborhood reports. You've got some great information you can share on your Facebook business page if you have one, on your social media. It's also good to show you or help you become knowledgeable about what's happening in your marketplace. And you can then go out, put it into a neighborhood report on your website, and have a digital magazine like I did. And so now I tell people, just go to my website, mayfieldre.com/Farmington, or wherever. This has a different web address up here because I'm hosting this on my server, but there's the information right there that they have, and I can capture leads that way. I can do a lot of really cool things through some of these reports that are out there. So don't underestimate, take time to look at some of these various reports. And that was the number 10th item we needed to show you, is when you're under commercial, they have some great reports here as well for trade area reports. So I can literally drill down into a neighborhood and provide some trade area reports for consumers and show them what's going on in a specific area, what type of business is needed. These are great reports to share with your Chamber of Commerce. Maybe take these to a Rotary or a Lions Club to show them what's happening, to talk about and discuss. You could also share these with human resource managers who are working with transferees coming in. So again, all I have to do is type in a zip code or the city, submit, and I can get some really cool reports. And by the way, you can get these on your mobile phone now as well. To get into commercial from the residential, just go up to the top and select commercial. So look at the reports. And by the way, that neighborhood report, that is an awesome report to give to human resource managers who maybe are working at hospitals or schools or larger corporations. There are also great ways, and since this is a neighborhood report, if I had somebody on the call was from Maplewood, New Jersey, I think it was. I think it was Maplewood, New Jersey. Let's see. It will auto-populate. Well, let's see, they're coming from Maplewood Park, Ohio. I'm under neighborhood, and one of my clients is moving to Maplewood Park, Ohio. I create this report, and now when the report is done, I email this. I'm going to go into neighborhood report. I email my client who's being relocated to Maplewood Park, Ohio, a report so they know a little bit about the community and what's going on in that area. Really neat stuff there. I did forget one other thing, and I do want to show you this, and then we are done. I've gone a couple of minutes over, and I apologize. I hope it's been helpful for you. I did want to show you in the mapping area over here when we went in the bigger map, you can do some heat overlays. And I mean, there's some really awesome things you can do over here. And this has been just such a beneficial tool for me in getting price reductions on properties, helping explain to buyers about what's going on in a market. So just check out the heat maps. There's a lot of different heat maps. We even have flood zones. They're all foot marked on where that data comes from and how often it's updated. So that concludes our top 10 list there. Now I do want to show you this last slide. I'll pull this up and I want to show you where I'm going to record this or where I'm going to post the recording. So I want to pull this up for you real quick right here. And someone's trying to get a hold of me, so I'll decline that call. Right here, you can get more information. You can email me, and I'm going to post this. If you go to businesstechguy.com, businesstechguy.com, and you come down here to resources and RPR, it will be posted there within the hour. And a little box might pop up if you want to sign up for my tech tips. But I have some other RPR webinars I've done. They're out here as well. You can take a look at, but it'll be posted right out here. My phone number and email is located up above. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to do that. You've been an awesome class. I wish we had time for questions, but just reach out to me by email. And hope this was worth your time more than anything. I hope our paths will cross in a live class someday. And I hope that you go out and list or sell a home today. Thank you so much. Have a great day.